Ladies and gentlemen, Farm Bureau members, we're honored to have with us this morning a new member of the governor's cabinet that was appointed in January by Governor McCrory, a lady that I have I've seen her, heard her speak several times. I didn't really know her, but I can tell you, she is an asset, is going to be an asset. She is an asset and will continue to be an asset and do great things for the state of North Carolina. And it is my honor this morning to introduce to you Sharon Decker, our Secretary of Commerce for North Carolina. Sharon Decker, Secretary Decker, was appointed Secretary of Commerce by Governor McCrory in January. She brings more than 30 years of experience in business and commerce to this position. Sharon Decker is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and in talking to her, she's got some really close ties to agriculture. She graduated, I always call it a home economist. They call it family and consumer services and other things, but she worked closely with, so she knows all about home economics and cooperative extension. And after graduation, Sharon spent more than 17 years with Duke Power. I still call it Duke Power. I guess we're going to get used to calling it Duke Energy. She rose through the ranks with Duke Energy and to become the youngest and the first female vice president in Duke Power history. Leaving Duke Power, Secretary Decker was involved in many activities with creating and developing several enterprises that further prepared her for her current responsibilities. She served as chair of the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce and was named the Charlotte Woman of the Year. Mrs. Decker is a lay minister in the Presbyterian Church. Currently, she resides in Rutherfordton with her husband, Bob. They have 4 children. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, North Carolina Farm Bureau is working closely with Secretary Decker on a host of issues involving economic development in our state, particularly in rural North Carolina. I have heard her speak. Secretary Decker understands agriculture's importance to the economy of our great state. We invited her here this morning not only to introduce her to you, but to introduce you to her as leaders from across North Carolina. And we're here this morning, Sharon Decker, to let you know that our organization stands ready to support your goals and to help you as you work to move our state forward. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm Farm Bureau welcome to our Secretary of Commerce, Sharon Decker.
I'm so grateful to Larry and to Peter for their immediate connection with me upon taking this office and their support through a tremendous amount of change. It's such a joy to work with you and appreciate so much the warm welcome this morning. I'm really here to say thank you to you. I am so very grateful for what you have done and continue to do for the state of North Carolina, because this is an agribusiness state. It's who we are. You're the number one economic engine in this state, and you will be the number one engine that drives the economic recovery of this state. It's $77 billion in this economy on an annual basis and 642,000 jobs. Agribusiness is what keeps this economic engine turning. And I want you to hear from me this morning that the primary purpose for my being here, and I was so delighted and honored that Larry asked me to come, is to say thank you to you and to recognize what you do and the importance of it in North Carolina's economic health. And to say that I'm committed in the role that I have in this government to help you be even more successful. I think we can grow North Carolina's agriculture business beyond the $100 billion mark. I think that's possible. And I think I'm going to share some ways I think we can make that happen, but I think that's a very important part and a very important part of the strategy for our long-term economic success. I want North Carolina to continue to be a leader in food production, but I also want us to be a leader in food processing and food packaging and the export of this food to feed the world. I think we have the opportunity to do that. I sat in the office of the company of a biotech firm that deals directly in the agricultural business worldwide that exist here in RTP. And the CEO looked across the table at me and he said, Sharon, you know that North Carolina has the opportunity to be at the epicenter of agribusiness for the world. And I said, has the potential to be, we're already there. And embracing it as the opportunity we have to grow this economy. He said, you have the heritage of agriculture, of which you are a leader in the world. You have a historic commitment to agriculture in the state. And you have made a historic commitment to the growth of technology related to agriculture in the state in the last 50 years. So we're making some progress in that regard as this economy recovers, but we've got a lot of hard work to do. I have shared as I've been traveling around the state that I think fundamentally in North Carolina we have to go back to the concept that we were dealing with in the 50s and 60s in North Carolina as we got focused on community redevelopment. Do any of you remember that? And we talked about 5 tenets of community development back then, and I think we got to focus there again today. And those 5 tenets are this. Number 1 is health. Every North Carolinian deserves the opportunity to live a healthy life. Now, not all of us will choose it, right? But we ought to have the opportunity, and that means access to health care. It means access to healthy food. It means fresh food. Your whole effort around farm-to-table initiatives is so important to the future of North Carolina and the future of our country. It's critically important. I get so excited in my home county of Rutherford when I see third-generation young adults coming back to farmland that, quite honestly, in some cases has laid fallow for some time, being recultivated with fresh food that's being marketed in our region. But that is a part of the health future of our state. Fresh water, clean air, all important to the health of our communities. The second is education. And we've got to keep investing in education, and you in different ways. And we are challenged in an economy that is declining in total revenues to know how best to invest in education to make it better. But in education, just like in your farming business, we've all had to reassess how do we do better work, produce more crop with less investment, right? I mean, that's the challenge we all face, whatever the business we're in. It's the same that we face in our education system today. How do we more effectively educate our young people, but how do we do it with declining revenues? I say the answer to our education issue is to grow this economy, and then we can invest more in our young people. But let me tell you a point of education that you and I have got to do some hard work in. I grew up in Gastonia, a textile community, and in the 60s, when I was growing up there, my mom and daddy were sitting at the table with me at bedtime in the Flint Groves community at dinner time, and they would say to me, Sharon, you can grow up to be and do anything you want to do, but for God's sake, don't come back and work where? In the mill. Now, my friends down east tell me that their mom and daddy were sitting at the table with them too, saying you can grow up and be and do anything you want to do, but for God's sake, what? Don't come back and work on the farm. But where do we need our kids today, guys? We need them back in agriculture, and we need them back in advanced manufacturing. And it's a different kind of business than you grew up in, and a different kind of business in the textile end of things that I grew up in. But we've got to get our kids re-engaged in agribusiness and advanced manufacturing in North Carolina again. And it starts in middle school. It starts around the dinner table at home, talking about the power and the value of work. But it also begins in getting our kids re-engaged in apprenticeships, in all types of internships, back in agribusiness and back in manufacturing. And we've got to be very deliberate about that. There's some wonderful stories that you could tell about work you're doing with the schools in your communities, getting kids back re-engaged in farming again and in agribusiness again, and helping them understand the futures that are there. I'm committed to you that one of the things we're going to be doing in commerce is talking again about the future of opportunity and workforce in agribusiness and in advanced manufacturing, and that's a big story in rural North Carolina. Education is important through the elementary years and high school, in our community colleges, in our universities, and lifelong. How many of us thought, I remember when I started work at Duke Power Company, James Nations, where are you? We filled out our information about starting our career with Duke Power, and you know, they had those qualified benefits plans, right? We don't see many of those these days. And it said, when do you want your retirement? I can remember at 21 picking the first number that was there, which was 55. And here I've passed that number, folks. And I'm not even thinking about retirement. And I bet a lot of you fit in that same category. And we're having to continue to learn new things because our work is continuing much past what we have known and what we thought we might be doing. And so education is a continuum. It doesn't stop when we finish school. So education is the second tenet. Third tenet, economic development. Now, folks, our focus in commerce is going to be on agribusiness, on advanced manufacturing. It's going to be on the development of small businesses and mid-sized businesses that can grow in this economy and grow well. It's going to be a focus on bringing some manufacturing back to the state, even more specifically, and there's an opportunity to do that in a number of categories: textiles, furniture, a number of areas, and we're going to be focused in agriculture specifically on food processing. A lot of you guys grow fantastic food that you got to send out of state to process, and we think we got to look at the whole food chain, literally, and figure out the ways logistically we make it easier for the entire process to happen in North Carolina. You can help us figure that out. What is it that we're missing? What is it you've been thinking all along? Why don't we do this in North Carolina? I want to hear from you and understand what that means to you and where those opportunities are. The most recent one I've been involved in, of course, is with sweet potatoes. To be processing French fries in Lumberton now is a very important thing in the whole chain of that particular product, which is so important to North Carolina's health. So we're focused again on agribusiness, on advanced manufacturing. We want to be recruiting in these areas. But most importantly, I want to tell you we want to help existing business grow. If I look at where we can best make our investments and get the greatest return, it's helping existing business grow. That's you and other industries and businesses across the state, and looking strategically at how we can help you do that. One of the ways we can help you do that is by helping you export more of what you grow. We're going to ramp up our international division team to be more focused and be able to reach more across the state in terms of exporting what we are already growing and producing in North Carolina. We have less than 2% of our businesses actually export what they make or grow in North Carolina. So there's a huge opportunity there if we want to grow this economy by working with businesses that already exist. I was in Lumberton yesterday in Whiteville, and they told me to stay at Whiteville. And so I was there, and a fellow that has a company called Toad Campers. Do any of you know about that? And he said he's a minister that started that company to make campers for people who didn't have a home. And as it turns out, he's developed a very ingenious little lightweight camper, easy to pull, even behind a small car. And he's getting orders now, he says, from Israel, Korea, Canada, and Germany. And he looked at me and he said, I haven't a clue how to get it out of here. And so he said, if I can't get it there on wheels, I don't know what to do. But there's some farmers around him that know how to do that. And immediately yesterday after that meeting, a couple of guys went up to him and said, I don't make campers, but I do grow a little produce that makes its way across the ocean. And so we can help you do that. And we've linked him up today with some folks who are involved in exports. So we want to grow existing business. When it comes to economic development, it also is about infrastructure. Where do we need water and sewer? Where do we need natural gas? Where do we need internet connection? Some of you have said to me, Sharon, I don't have the connectivity I need to maintain the business and the way it operates today. That's a critical issue. I've said to the governor that when we leave office, we need to be sure that this state is wired for business. We have now a loop finished that should allow us to do that. We've got to make the investment to make it happen. That's a direct impact in rural North Carolina, and it's a priority for us. Infrastructure is important when it comes to economic development, but so are small businesses and startups. Some of you have children and grandchildren who have dreams of starting small businesses. North Carolina has historically had a business-friendly climate where small businesses could get started and where they could be encouraged. We are looking at the development of a venture fund where we could invest in creative new businesses to help small businesses really gain their footing in this state and grow here. So economic development is important. And then I would tell you it's tourism, arts, and culture. And you have a big role to play in that. What you can do with heritage tourism, what you can do with ecotourism, what you can do to be involved in that dimension of North Carolina's economy is very, very important. Folks know this is a beautiful state. They want to come here and visit. And I say that tourism is the most important economic development because folks come here and spend money and they leave. We don't have to educate them. We don't have to care for them when they're sick. And yet we hope some of those folks will come back here and retire as well. But arts, tourism, and culture are a very important part of our economy and an important part of our community redevelopment. And I want to tell you a very important part of rural North Carolina's redevelopment. And fifth, the environment and quality of life. Every week I'm sitting with people who have brought companies to North Carolina. And I say to them, why did you come here? People say to me, why did you stay here? It's been very conscious. And I say I stay here because I love it. I like the people. I like the land. I love the fact that I can get to the mountains and the coast in a reasonable period of time. I love the fact that I'm welcomed into people's homes and that there is a sense of community when I come to groups like this and when I'm in communities like I was yesterday in Lumberton and Whiteville. I also know that I choose to live here because the quality of life in general is good relative to education, relative to my church community, relative to the people that I know and the opportunities that are here. And we, I'm afraid, take that for granted. But people all over the world come here and experience it. I had dinner last night with 2 Israeli investors who have a company in the rural part of our state. And I said to them, why did you come here? And the man said, I've never met nicer people anywhere in the world. It makes a difference. So we need to treasure and honor that and recognize that as an asset. And this environment, the good earth that you work every day, is a precious commodity. And we need to be good stewards of it. And that's the way I look at it. It is an issue of stewardship. So as we focus on a redevelopment of commerce in North Carolina, those are the 5 tenets on which we'll base our decisions. How do these decisions impact that? I know you've got a lot of concern about the realities at the Rural Center. And I want to tell you something. I am so grateful for the work of the North Carolina Rural Center. My community has benefited from what Billy Ray and that team has done over the last 26 years. I said when I got to Raleigh, I appreciated what he did because he was the only guy in Raleigh that ever would return my calls. And you know what I mean. And so I am grateful for the work that has been done, but we find ourselves at a time where we need to reevaluate what we're doing and ask the hard questions about what do we stop, what do we start, what do we keep doing, what do we modify, what do we change. But my commitment to you is that in that process of change, that we are going to keep our focus on rural North Carolina. We've had a lot of good people in commerce doing a lot of hard work, but I do not believe that the State Department of Commerce has had the focus on rural North Carolina that it needs to have. And I want to change that because you are at the heart, and agribusiness specifically is at the heart of who we are and how we will recover in this economic time. I want you to understand that I know that. How will we do it? You're going to have to help us figure out. I'm looking to Larry and Peter to say what are the key issues that we need to address as we look at agribusiness anew from a commerce standpoint. What are the pieces that are missing? What are the things that are needed? And how do we best move the needle? Despite all the good work of commerce and the Rural Center and all of those involved in economic development, we have been in net job decline in North Carolina for more than 5 years. The average wage for North Carolinians is among the lowest in the country. And so we're not making progress, are we? And so my focus is net job growth, growing the average wage of North Carolina and in North Carolinians, and improving the economic health of our state. This will not be an easy task. It won't happen quickly. It won't happen with massive change, but slow, progressive change that allows us to allocate funds in ways that can be most productive. We'll need your help in deciding how that will happen. I'm leaving our session today to go meet with the folks at the Rural Center, to spend some time with them, to listen, to hear what they value and treasure about the work that they've done. What might they suggest that we change as we look at change, and how might we move forward in productive and constructive ways? That's the way I want to approach the change we have to make. We will be putting more of our commerce team across the state. Raleigh's a great place. It's a nice place to have an office, but it's not a place where you can easily learn about what's really going on across North Carolina. So our commerce team is going to be dispersed and located across the state rather than all in Raleigh in the corporate office, in the state office, as a way to get them engaged in community. So as we're recruiting business and working with existing business, we really understand more about the culture, and we understand more about what needs to take place. So that's where we're headed, the basis on which we'll create the change and the general direction in which we'll go. Again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for what you're already doing in North Carolina. Thanks for how you're helping us come out of this recovery. I can't say it strongly enough. Agribusiness is a big key to North Carolina's recovery coming out of this recession. And I'm grateful for what you do and appreciative for what you do. We need to be exporting more of North Carolina product. We need to be encouraging North Carolina citizens to buy what is grown and produced here. And there's a lot that this state can be doing to encourage that. As we set out on our new branding initiative, a portion of that branding initiative will be a focus on North Carolina products and encouraging North Carolinians and others. I'm tired of seeing those Michigan ads, not just about coming to vacation with us, but coming to see what kind of product we've got and to use it, eat it, and drink it. Thanks so much for what you do. Thank you, Lord. Appreciate it.